Hey guys, welcome to another live painting here with Relish the Moment. And today I'm going to be making the Do All Things in Love project. This comes with a 7x7 sign. Then we have some other pieces that we're going to do, which are going to come together and be like standing pots. So I just want to come on here and show you how quick and easy all of these projects are. We do them in our online community called Kit Is Well With My Soul. And so let's go ahead and start painting. One of the things with our wood projects is that we do kind of have some tips and tricks that make it fun and easy. All ages, all stages can do that. And so one of the things that we do is I engrave the projects with guidelines. So this is going to tell us where the next piece, where the next layer is going to go right onto it. So you can kind of see here that this engraved line matches this shape. And so when everything is painted, we're going to be able to still see these guidelines, even though we're going to paint over them. We'll still be able to see that. And we'll know exactly where to place this, making it so easy. All ages and all stages can do our projects. All right, so with our projects, it's always best to start with the biggest piece first. And the wood soaks up the paint. So it's really best to just do a thin layer. And if you want to come back and do a second coat, you can. Okay, so just moving the paint all in the same direction, whatever you choose, up and down or left and right, either way. And you see that I'm painting right over the engraving, the guidelines. Okay, and don't worry if as you're painting you're like, I can't see the line anymore. As it dries, it'll show back through a lot more than perhaps what it looks like when it's still wet. So I'm just painting right all over this. Now this particular project, it is going to have a frame that goes around it. So the edges, they don't have to be completely perfect. So I don't know if you can tell on there, but like there's a little spot on there that's not fully covered, but that's totally okay. All right. Just want to move something over so I can see if anybody's commenting. And if you're watching this live, let us know what you're doing this Friday night. Did you already have dinner? For us, Fridays, we already had dinner, and for us, Fridays are all about pizza, something that we started during the shutdown orders, and that's what Fridays became known as. It was pizza and fries on Friday. And so we don't do the fries all the time now on Friday, but we definitely still do the pizza. Okay, so got the coat pretty much done. And again, thin layer is best, and it'll dry pretty quickly if you do just a thin layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this out of the way so I can get some of the other pieces that we're going to do. So when you get our projects, you can either choose to have the paint included inside your project and all the paint will be sent to you. Or if you're like, I want to use my own paint, that's fine as well. But either way you go, what you want to do before you start painting is organize all your pieces to kind of know where everything is going to belong. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to paint the pieces. They're going to have like a dry brush effect. And this is very common with farmhouse design and it's really easy to do. So what you want to do is you want to use a big brush. That's what I have here. And you don't need very much paint on your brush. And then you're just going to kind of draw your brush over the piece with a very light touch. And so the idea is that it's almost going to make your paint kind of like skip over the wood. And there's no really kind of like right or wrong way to like, oh, how much paint and where should I put the paint and all of that. You're just going to apply it and dry brush it on. And then you can take a look at it and go, oh, I want some more over there, or I got to get this side a little bit more, and then you just add it where you think it needs it. Okay. Some people will kind of do another approach to this is you could kind of go a little bit heavier with the paint and then come back through with some sandpaper and remove paint. So that's an option as well. So I like to just do the dry brush. Very, very little paint is needed. And you can, like I said, go heavy or go lighter if you want. Okay. So it's kind of like that. That's good. So I'm going to set that aside. We've got a few other pieces here that have that same effect. So one of our pots here is going to have that same effect. And the white just goes on the bottom. And so it's brush, brush, brush. I tell people, like, when you are dry brushing, it's, better to start off with applying a little at a time and then build as you go. Okay. So just apply, and go heavier. Keep going as you want. And then when it looks the way you want it, just stop. And that's it. So the standing hearts comes with 3, a small, a medium, and a large. So I'm just going to do this to all of the pots. And I like that these pots can be removed out of the stand because, when you're not displaying them, they can just lay flat. It makes it really easy to store. So when it's up, you've got the dimension and the nice kind of the texture and the height and everything. But when you go to store it, it lays nice and flat. So again, I'm just putting a very little amount of paint on my brush, and I'm just going to dry brush here and just very gentle, kind of back and forth, kind of relaxing. And it teaches you to have a lighter touch. Now with our projects, you can certainly, when everything gets shipped to you, there's a picture of the finished product in there. And you can follow the directions and have the colors and everything come together like it shows in the picture. Or you can add your own twist to it. So if you're thinking, oh, I like those hearts, but I don't really have a farmhouse look in my house, you can definitely paint the pots a solid color. Okay, so we've got a few other things that we're going to paint white before I do a second coat on this larger piece here. And I'm going to do one other thing with the dry brush, and then I'm going to switch tools. And just going to tap some of that paint off. And again, just brush, 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 brush. Okay. Actually, this one I'm going to lay down flat. Just like that. All right, I think I like that. And I'm just gonna set this off to the side. Okay, so now I'm gonna change my tool up. So far I've been using this large brush. Now I'm gonna change it up and I'm gonna use a sponge. And so earlier I showed you that there's some guidelines that come on the pieces so you know where to glue the next piece. The other thing that we do that makes our projects really easy for all ages and stages is that we also engrave components of the design right into the wood piece. So if you are newer to crafting, painting, and you're thinking, how do I kind of make this, these lines here to give kind of some dimension to the bow, you don't have to worry about that because we already have the design engraved into the piece for you. This was really helpful during the fall when we had some leaves. We did that with the leaves. That was really nice. And pumpkins, so we kind of knew where to put our highlights. Okay, so I got the paint on the sponge. You see that it's really pressed into the sponge, so the sponge is not overloaded with paint. And that is key when we're working with the pieces that already have the design engraved in there. Okay, so now I have my piece and I'm just gonna tap the sponge on there. It is nice to do this on a flat surface, and I like to first apply the sponge where there's no engraved line. So these pieces that are coming down, I'll start there, I do that because if I put too much paint on the sponge, then it gives a chance to come off the sponge and not get into those engraved lines. So I'm just gently tapping it on. So the tap is a part of the technique. You don't want to swipe because that'll push the paint into those engraved lines and you kind of lose that effect. Okay, so we got the paint pushed into that bow, and I'm just going to pick a little bit more paint up, and you kind of see I pick it up and then I'm like tapping it off to the side. So now we're going to do the big bow. And I start where there's no engraved line, and then I move my way towards the engraved lines there. I love how each piece kind of comes alive when you put paint on it. Kind of pops out. Okay. And the nice thing again is when you're doing this, you can decide if you want to do, especially with the lighter colors, if you want to do one coat or two coats. With this bow, I'm going to come back around with another coat. But the nice thing is sometimes when you do just the one coat, the color of the natural wood comes through. And with certain colors like the white and the silver that we're going to be using, you can, it has like this antique look to it. Awesome. All right. Okay. I'm going to do one more with this. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So that's how it looks painted, and seeing like how those engraved lines come through. I love that. Okay, so I'm gonna set that aside. And I've got one last thing that I'm going to paint with a white. And then I'll be ready to do a second coat. This one I just want to show you here. This has got a little bit of a design right there on the heart. So the same thing I want to do. These are not guidelines. So there's not going to be a second thing that gets put over that. This is a part of the design. So this, I do want it to show. So again, I'm not overloading, my sponge with too much paint. And then we're just going to tap. Now, I definitely recommend usually doing this on the table, but I do want to show it to you. So I'm bringing it a little closer. And this is another example of you can choose how you want the coverage to be. You want it to be a little, a full coverage or a little opaque. I kind of like it where it's not completely filled in. So it looks a little antique. Because remember, it's going to be kind of set against this one here. Okay, so that's all the white for the small pieces. So I'm going to bring back my larger board. And this is going to show us here what one coat looks like. So you can kind of see it's not fully covered. And that's okay. So you can just come back through and you're going to do a second coat. Okay. So we're just going to go in the same direction. I chose to go up and down. You can go left or right. Either one is fine. All right. There we go. Now that I've got the first coat on there, you can kind of be a little bit more generous with the paint and then move the paint around on the board. Okay. Even though it's the second coat, I still want to make sure it's a nice thin, even coat. We're still working with wood. So wood, wood will soak up the paint. When wood comes in contact with moisture, it can, because it soaks it in, it can swell just a little bit. So I don't want to overload it with paint. Okay. All right. So I like that there. I definitely like that with 2 coats. So the back, this board here, I'm going to definitely recommend doing at least 2 coats. And I kind of like to look at it from different angles because you'll notice, oh, hey, over here, I gotta add a little more. Okay. And just as a tip, I do like to paint my boards up, elevated a little bit. And there's just a variety of things that you can use. You could probably just use something that you already have around the house. So I've gotten some bowls from a bargain store, and that's it's sitting on a bowl. So just like that. All right. So now let's make our way. I'm going to work with the silver pile. And the rest of the project, I'm going to be using actually sponges for the rest of the project. So for my silver, I'm going to do just the heart and these pieces in here. And here's another tip that I have. So when you're working with really small pieces, I definitely recommend putting them on painter's tape. If you don't have painter's tape, you can use other types of tape. Some tapes that are super, super sticky or have a strong adhesive, maybe not those. That's why I use the painter's tape. Okay, so I just folded this half over so it's easy for me to hold it and my fingers aren't going to stick to it. All right, so again, I have my sponge. Just going to tap it into the silver here. Make sure the paint is like really worked and pressed into the sponge. And then I'm just gonna tap it on. Okay. So here's another light color that I was sharing. You can either do one coat and some of that natural wood color is gonna come through and it kind of gives us like this antique look. Or you can do 2 coats, whatever you like. And when you do apply these nice thin coats, it dries pretty quickly and you can come back through fairly quickly and do your second coat. Okay, so I'm not painting this stem here in the middle. So I just want to make sure that with the corner of the sponge, that I come through here and get the bottom. Okay, so here you have a couple of choices. So as I'm painting this silver heart, I can, because this area that I'm painting is a little bit larger and flat, I can do a swipe motion, right? Like what you would normally do when you paint. If you continue to tap it on, like if you ever think about like when you've frosted a cake, right? You remember the technique, like you can get the butter knife, you put the frosting on there and then like you tap it with the butter knife and some of the frosting makes peaks, kind of like, I don't know if you can see that. Oh, like that. The same thing happens here. If you tap, tap, tap on the large surface like this, it can give it a little bit of texture. And so I think it goes very well with the farmhouse look. So I like to do, tapping the paint on, even though I can do a swipe. Okay, so I'm gonna come back through here and do like a second coat here on the silver. So just tapping it on. And it goes that quick. And you also see you don't need that much paint as well. So I love using the sponges. It's quick. It's easy. And it's super like clean. Like the pieces look awesome. They're not drowning in paint. It's not, overflowing on the sides or anything like that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the frame. And this is also going to be in silver. So I'm going to see if I can hold this closer so you can kind of see. So on here, because again, it's a flat area, you can definitely swipe. Okay, and so as you kind of do more and more projects with us, you can kind of see, okay, oh, this is the perfect time to swipe, or this is the time where I definitely want to tap the paint on with the sponge. I definitely still like to use a sponge here instead of a paintbrush because the sponge is nice and flat. And so it doesn't push the paint over onto the sides, like onto this side too much. So the sponge is fast, it's easy, it's super clean. And it's kind of satisfying actually. And I'm just wiping the paint over. We've got a little bit left here. And that's it. Easy peasy. And I mean, this will be dry in just a few seconds. So I'm going to set that off to the side. All right, so we've got our silver done. We just have our red and our turquoise left to do. And I'm going to do the red. Okay. So because I think the red's going to show you some of the things that I've talked about already. Whoops, that one has the white on it. All right. So it's going to show you a little bit of both things that I've mentioned so far, why I love to use the sponge. So first and foremost, I love using the sponge when it comes to letters. So when you just tap it on there like that, it covers it and it is super clean, fast, easy. You're not using a lot of paint. There's not a lot of paint going over onto the sides or anything like that. Okay. A piece like this, you can put it on the painter's tape. You certainly can do that. Or you can just hold one side while you do it. Spin it the other way. Hold it from the outside. And yeah, you kind of stay fairly clean, but I mean, this is crafting, right? So you gotta expect a little bit of getting dirty. All right. So then I just want to take a look, make sure everything got covered. The red is pretty opaque, so usually one coat is good. I usually just have to get a spot that I might have skipped over. But there's that. So those letters are done. Set those off to the side. And for the last piece that we're going to do red is the large heart. And then this will kind of show you again where we have some of the lines are a part of the design. So we definitely want the lines to still show through a lot. So I'm going to tap the sponge on there, make sure that all of the paint is pressed into the sponge. It's not too much. You need to take some off, just tap it on your plate. And then apply the paint with the tap and gentle pressure. Okay. I definitely recommend doing this on the tabletop, especially this piece where it's big and then a narrow piece. Because then when you push down on it, you know, it's not going to bend or snap or anything like that. So just going to keep tapping it away. Again, just with the corner of the sponge, get right in there. And tap. And so, of course, you could do this set in whatever color combo that you love. Maybe you do, you know, colors that are fitting for Valentine's. You decorate for that day. Or if you just like the message, I mean, because it is, you know, a timeless message to do all things in love. Then you can paint it to coordinate with your home decor colors, and you can definitely leave it up all year long. Okay, so that is the red. Gorgeous. I love it, love it, love it. So that's what it looks like, all painted. Love it. Okay, just one more color to do. And that is going to be our turquoise. So, now, I didn't plan for this, but here we are. I didn't bring enough sponges. So, another great thing about using the sponges is that, especially if you didn't push too much paint into the sponge, you could just cut off that piece and keep using it. So that is awesome. All right, so now we're going to do the turquoise. And we got that right here. If you've got a favorite brand of paint that you use, put that in the comments. I'm always, you know, loving to hear what kind of crafting tools or supplies that people use. You might find something that's really, really awesome. I haven't tried it yet, and I'd be interested in trying something new. Okay, so earlier on the silver heart, I did the tap. And so now I'm just showing you how you can swipe the color off. Swiping the color is a good option if what you're doing is nice and flat, solid surface without any, engraving on there. So there's that. So easy. Now here's a piece with the engraving on it. So this one we don't want to swipe. Okay. This is a good example of when we want to tap the paint on. All right. So I touched that earlier today. All right. So we're just going to tap, tap, tap. And I did try to start the sponge where there was like an open area without the engraving. So again, if I accidentally had too much paint on my sponge, it would just come right off. All right, here we go. So, and now I'll go in. Looks like that. Nice gentle touch. Even though I might be moving a little fast here, it's still a gentle, gentle touch. Just tap, 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 tap. Same thing here. I love that. So quick and easy. And so we use the sponges because it really is the best way to get the paint on and still allow the engraving to show through. All right, we're on the home stretch. The last thing that you always want to use a sponge for, and with the tapping technique, not swiping, okay, is when it comes to intricate cuts. So here we have the wording. Slide that over a little bit. And you definitely want to use a sponge for this. So just getting a little bit of paint there, making sure that the sponge is not overloaded. And now we can tap it right in. And it's so quick and easy. If you were to do this with a brush, sometimes what happens is like, let me bring this closer. In this area that's open, the paint can pull into there, and then it just gets, not as clean of a finish. Okay. So, and this is all about relaxing and taking some time for yourself. But, I know some people too are really busy and are like, gosh, I really want to do that, but I can't do something that's going to take me a very, very long time. The sponge makes the projects go super fast. If I were to paint this with a brush, it would take me 4 times longer to paint it because I would have to go so slow over the words, so I'm not making this huge mess of the words. And so the sponge is definitely my preferred way to do these projects. Okay. All right. Last one. Let's go here, here, here. Just like that. And again, these pieces, you can put them on painter's tape if you want to, or just spin them, hold them down, paint one side, spin it the other way, the other side. All right, so everything now is painted, and you can see you don't even have to use that much paint. I love that. Okay, so I'm going to move this off to the side and show you a little bit about the gluing. So one thing about the gluing, so what I want to do, I have another piece that I want to bring in, one that's a little bit, this one is still just a little bit wet. I don't want to use that one quite yet. But I've got another one that is finished. So I'm going to bring that onto the camera. And this is also an example of you can do the colors that I always give a color suggestion. And like I say, you can get the kits with the paint already included. or if you want to do a kit with no paint, they still send like a color swatch of a recommended color palette. And this is an example of the other color palette. You see that there? So we did the pink instead of the teal. Okay, so let me show you how we glue this together. You've got all of our pieces here. And I like to definitely show how to do the glue because this is an area as well where I have a few pointers. Okay. So first and foremost, probably my favorite glue for the wood projects is this wood glue, and I get it at the dollar store. I love it. Okay, so whenever we're putting our pieces together, I always recommend doing like a dry fit. So just positioning everything in place before you start gluing. That way you know where everything belongs. You don't have to hunt for the pieces. Everything is already in its place. Then the next thing that you want to do is, especially if you're using this glue, you don't need to cover the whole thing in glue. You don't need to drown it. Okay, it really locks it in tight. So don't put too much glue. One thing I see often at my paint classes is people saturate it with glue, and then when you put it on and you kind of push down, it all oozes out. And then now we're cleaning instead. Okay, so there I put a little bit too much. So I'm just going to, without squeezing it, I'm just going to use the nozzle to kind of push it around. Then I'm just going to place this here. And another thing about the designs is they try to be very mindful about how the pieces come together. So you see here where the paint stops and the bare part begins. You don't have to be like super intricate or precise about it because it's going to get covered up. All right, so next one, same thing. You don't need to drown it in glue. Just a dot is fine. And you can put it on just like that. You can always paint, with us online. We do have our monthly club where we have our private group. We paint together there. Everything gets shipped to you. Or you could always do a paint party as well, a virtual paint party. We started doing those in 2020. I'm sure you can guess why. And it was fun. We were doing them with people that were local. Then we started doing it with family members who lived out of state. So it's definitely a fun way to get together. So that's everything glued there together. Doesn't take a lot of time at all to dry and lock in, which is awesome. Okay, so now the next thing I want to show you is I'll show you the sign. So we got the sign done in pink as well. So let me bring that over. I'm going to pop these over here to the side. Let them dry. And now we'll bring in the big sign. Okay. So, put those over to the side. Got all our little pieces here. And I like to show people, again, all about not need the glue. You don't need to put too much of the glue. All right. So we've got our frame here. And you just need dots of glue. You don't need to overload it. Stop. And anytime you feel like, oop, too much came out, too much of a squeeze, and you can just kind of move it around with the nozzle. Okay, now we're gonna flip this over and put on the frame. This is also another key piece when you're painting it, why you don't want to overload it, because then it'll start to warp. And then when you put the frame on, it looks like it won't lay flat. If that happens, not a problem. Not a problem. If you've got, you could use these. You got those at home? This is laying flat, but I'll just show you. You can just open it and then place this right over to squeeze it down. Okay. Dollar Tree does have these pink clips. They're really intended for like when you're sewing, but I use those all the time. I love them. Okay, so now when you do that, it's really gonna put pressure down. So you could just, run your finger through, get any glue that might have oozed out. One of the things I do love to do with cleaning up the glue is a toothpick, or you could just use a dry brush. The glue's water-based, so I just wash my brushes right after this. All right, got a little paint on here. That's okay. I'm gonna glue everything together, and if I need to cover that up with paint, I will do that. All right, let's get the words on there. So again, I always recommend doing a dry fit. And I'm just going to bring this closer. I don't know if you can see it, but you can still see the guidelines. There we go. So you know where to put the pieces. And then you know that everything is leveled. It's centered. So this is where everything is going to go. Just like that. All right. Because this is in the middle and it's like really tiny pieces, I'm not going to put those in just yet. All right, let's see how well I can do this. In this space I got. Okay. So just dot, not too much. Okay. All right. Come over here and place this down. I'm going to move it just a little bit. You do have some time to work with the glue. Maybe about a minute. This glue sets pretty fast too. All right. Ooh, got a lot on that one. Carry some over onto this side. Some people, they like to use a small brush. In my classes, I've seen them do that. Use a small brush to paint the glue on. Alright. I gotta come this way. You definitely want to make sure you have good lighting when you're doing this so you can see the guidelines. All right. Next word. There we go. Does anybody here decorate for Valentine's? I think some years it depends. It depends on how busy the schedule is. This year, we decorated more than we have in the past few years, so it was definitely fun. The first time we actually kept the tree up and decorated it for a different holiday. Always wanted to do that, and I finally got to do it this year. So we definitely got it all with the reds and the pinks and silver and white. But now I'm just getting up and looking at it, making sure everything looks in place. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Coming along. All right. Another tool that I like to use a lot is tweezers. Kind of helps to place some of these really smaller pieces. So definitely use that. I'm going to get the middle part here. Put some glue in there. Pop this down. I don't know, have you ever decorated your tree for different holidays? My husband asked me, he's like, so are you, is this coming down after Valentine's? I said, yes. The Valentine's ornaments that we made are coming down, and the Easter ones are going up. No, just kidding. I'm not doing it. Or spring. I think it'll all come down. All right. Spin this way. Take a look at how it's setting. Making sure everything is on the lines. Okay. That's what it is. And then that's what it is. Okay. All right. Now, sometimes, depending on the design, you can put the glue right on the board. Just depends on how thick that space is. And this one, space isn't that thick, so it's better just to put it on the wood piece and then set it down. Okay. Awesome. And look at this. I wonder if I can turn on my flashlight. Oh, where did it go? Nope. There we go. I like that. Bring it over closer. Oh, but it is. This one's slid. Yeah, another reason why you don't want to put too much glue. Things start to slide around. Okay. All right. Let's get the rest of these on. Here. You could definitely I say paint this to fit your home decor, leave it up, all year long, or kind of like the first half of the year, maybe, if you wanted to. I'm a big fan. My family's like, oh my gosh. I'm a big fan of like classic colors, like black and white and silver, or the raw wood. That would be a really pretty color combo. Metallics also would look so amazing with this. I know we've got the silver metallic here, but again, kind of those metallic neutrals, like maybe bronze and silver with black. Oh, that would look awesome. There's a lot of different ways that you can put this together. And once it's been in place for a second, you could definitely come back through with a clean brush and wipe up any excess glue. It does dry clear, but if you do have like a big clump of glue, like that part would still kind of show like the texture of it. So you could definitely come back through with just a clean brush and wipe it off. All right, last piece. We've got here. And a lot of our projects too, because they're all encouraging and faith-based, family-oriented, they really make great gifts. Especially if someone just needs like a little like pick-me-up, or it's a great way just to let them know that they're being thought of. It could be for the holiday, or just, we have a lot of just because here in our house. So one of the things that we do is like just because cake. You could give a just because sign. So thank you so much for painting with me this evening. Hope we can do it again. If you're interested in getting any of the kits, please visit our website.